Hey, good evening, and welcome back to The Buzz with me, Delano, right here on Relax Radio. Time for right now is exactly 6:10 p.m., and it's the final of the show for me. I'll be with you till 7 p.m. right here on Relax Radio. Don't forget to download our app from the App Store or the Play Store. Just simply search for Relax, RELAKS, on the App Store or the Play Store, and download it so that you can listen to us on demand. All right, a quick recap of what's happening in the UK today and yesterday. In news, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, has been discharged from hospital. That's good news. ATM withdrawals have dropped by £37 billion during the year of COVID. I think that's got an explanation, though, because a lot of people started using non-contact cashless payment methods, rather, like using your phone to pay for certain things, or using online, using your cards online, or using apps to pay for certain things. So I guess because of that, a lot of people have stopped handling physical cash. And also with COVID-19, handling physical cash is not the best thing to do because cash changes hands, right? The next story from the UK was that thieves and burglars to be fitted with GPS tags. I'm just going through the headlines here. That's a good thing as well, fitting them with GPS tags. Uber to pay minimum wage, holiday pay, and pensions to drivers. More good news there. And finally, hairdressers and garden centres will be allowed to reopen in Scotland from 5th April. So if you still haven't got your hairdo sorted out, and if you live in Scotland, 5th April is the date when you'll be able to get that sorted out again. All right. So on the final of the show today, I'm going to be discussing job enrichment. All right. Job enrichment is a well-known job design method. And in this guide, I'm going to be explaining what job enrichment is, and also dive into the advantages of job enrichment and give you examples of how to enrich your job and to compare job enrichment to job enlargement. All right. And I'll be explaining all of that to you as we go on right here on The Buzz with me, Delano, on Relax Radio. So now, what is job enrichment? You must be asking yourself, what is job enrichment? All right. So job enrichment is a process that is characterized by adding dimensions to existing jobs to make them more motivating. Examples of job enrichment will include adding extra tasks, also called job enlargement, increasing skill variety, adding meaning to jobs, creating autonomy, and giving feedback. Now, the goal of job enrichment is to create a motivating job. And as we all know, when your job is motivating, you are happy, you are pushed to do more and better. And motivating jobs always helps with our job satisfaction. If you're not motivated on the job, we will have very little job satisfaction, right? Now, how do you increase motivation on the job? Well, this can be done, for an example, by taking a regular boring job and adding extra responsibilities that make the job more meaningful for the worker. Job enrichment is therefore part of job design and job redesign. Now, the biggest reason to invest in job enrichment is that it leads to motivation, and this makes job enrichment especially relevant for highly skilled white-collar service jobs. And job enrichment is less important for blue-collar workers, though. For blue-collar workers, their primary concern is pay, job security, and the rules of the workplace. Job enrichment is less effective in this context because it does not address these problems. But for white-collar workers, job enrichment is an important tool in terms of bringing motivation levels up in the workplace. Now, to conclude with a job enrichment definition, job enrichment is the process of adding motivators to existing roles in order to increase satisfaction and productivity for the employee. So if you're an employer listening in right now, job enrichment is an important tool to keep your employees happy and coming back to you for more. All right, that is an important thing to remember. So we got the definition of job enrichment out of the way. Now, just to give you a brief history on job enrichment and job enrichment theory, to understand where job enrichment came from, we'll have to take a look at the history books. Now, in the early days, in 1914, the Ford Motor Company had captured 48% of the automobile market. Henry Ford gained this market share because he fundamentally changed the way cars were built. Now, together with Frederick Taylor, the father of scientific management, he created a first version of the assembly line. Now, Ford and Taylor, they applied an engineering approach to work by chunking a complex process like building a car into simple tasks that were then executed by workers specialized in just that one task. For an example, attaching a wheel. That's just one task. This resulted in the first mass production of cars, and in 1914, the Ford Motor Company was able to make a new car every 93 minutes, which was a record at the time. All right. So, however, there was a problem. Now, even though the workers in the Ford factory were highly productive, they were bored out of their minds because they're doing the same thing day in, day out, right? For an example, if it was me fitting the wheel, I'll be doing that every single day on the job. And doing the same thing makes it monotonous and boring. And after that, you don't have any motivation to just continue doing the same thing over and over again, day in, day out, 5 days a week or 6 days a week or whatever number of days a week you work. So it turned out that aligning workers for Ford, in the example of Ford, it turned out that aligning workers with the most efficient work activities is not always the best way to motivate or retain them. A few decades later, in 1959, Frederick Herzberg published his two-factor theory of motivation. Herzberg proposed that some job factors result in satisfaction. These are motivators. Examples include recognition, responsibility, meaningfulness, and a sense of achievement. A satisfying job should have sufficient motivators. That is important. A motivational approach offers an alternative to the engineering approach used in scientific management. In the motivational approach, job enrichment plays a crucial part. Here, jobs are created to satisfy an employee and their needs, that is, to motivate. This approach provides people with autonomy, responsibility, and the ability to do a job from start to finish, and performance feedback, which is another important point as well. Now, the approach was later refined in Hackman and Oldham's 1980 job characteristics model. They propose that there are job characteristics that lead to meaningfulness, motivation, and performance. Job enrichment is the process of adding motivators to existing jobs to increase job satisfaction. All right. Now, the validity of this model was assessed through a meta-review of nearly 200 studies on the model, and the results of the analysis showed support for the different job characteristics, although there was some debate about the exact number of dimensions. Psychological states were confirmed as a mediator between job characteristics and outcomes. And since the topic of job enrichment has been so well established in literature, I will be using some older sources as they are still the go-to place for this technique. All right. Now, let's get into the advantages of job enrichment. As I mentioned in the definition, the main goal of job enrichment is to create motivation, higher satisfaction, and also work quality improvements for your employees. Now, the result of job enrichment can be categorized in psychological states and personal and work outcomes. Examples of psychological states are meaningfulness, responsibility for the outcomes of the work, and knowledge of the actual results and impact of the work. Now, examples of work outcomes are motivation, higher quality work performance, higher work satisfaction, better employee experience, and lower absence and employee turnover. Now, you could imagine that job enrichment could also lead to decreased satisfaction due to the increasing intensity and scope of their work, right? Now, this has not been found in studies. Rather, the increasing intensity and scope are experienced as a motivational variable for most people. That increase in responsibility is a motivator that helps you to push for more, to do better. And the exception, though, is that workers with low growth needs or with low knowledge and skills. Now, for these workers, job enrichment was more likely to produce frustration than satisfaction. So you need to be careful of whom you pick to go ahead with job enrichment. All right, who would it work best for, instead of using it for people that it wouldn't work best, and then ultimately getting them frustrated and probably wanting to leave their jobs. Now, other advantages will include that people experienced in their jobs as being more enriched show a higher job involvement, internal motivation, and increased loyalty. A study showed that job enrichment led to higher loyalty in high stress environments of a downsizing company. There was a study done on this downsizing company, and it showed that job enrichment led to higher loyalty in that high stress environment. Now, in this situation, job enrichment was successfully used as a way to retain people. Now, interestingly, job enrichment does not necessarily lead to greater productivity. Although employees experience the work as more meaningful, they don't necessarily generate more output. All right. So that is a bit of a cover on the advantages of job enrichment. I also spoke to you about job enrichment theory and a brief history on it. And I gave you the definition of job enrichment. What is job enrichment? Job enrichment is a process that is characterized by adding dimensions to existing jobs to make them more motivating. For an example, of job enrichment would be adding extra tasks, also called job enlargement, increasing skill variety, adding meaning to jobs, creating autonomy, and giving feedback. Now, I got more on job enrichment coming up. Got the job diagnostic survey, also 12 job enrichment interventions coming up. And I'll be also talking to you about job enrichment versus job enlargement, what's the difference and what is important, and also barriers to job enrichment if I have enough time for it on the show today. Time for you right now is exactly 6:20 p.m. For the rest of my chat with you on job enrichment, make sure you have the Relax Radio app. If you haven't got the app as yet, download it from the App Store or the Play Store. Simply search for Relax, RELAKS Radio. You can also listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. This is me, Delano, right here on The Buzz, and I'll be with you till 7 p.m. Good evening.